And welcome to the Backstage Podcast. Just off the top, we just wanted to send our deepest condolences to all the families that were affected. What happened at Bondi over the weekend. Our hearts go out to all the victims and all their families, as well as a shout out to everybody who was on the front line and put in a lot of time and effort, helping out.
Well said, Coop. Our thoughts and prayers to people. We have got absolutely no idea what you're enduring and going through at the moment, but yeah, we send our deepest condolences and our thoughts and prayers. Look, on the podcast today, we're interviewing Gus Worland, who's a great mate of mine who I work with a lot, and we're going to touch on Gus's very important charity, Gotcha for Life. So please note this episode contains discussions of sensitive topics, including trauma, mental health, and suicide. So listener discretion is advised. If you're battling your own personal mental health challenges, please visit Lifeline 13 11 14 or www.lifeline.org.au or www.gotchaforlife.org. And Coops, I'm looking forward to catching up with Gussie.
Obviously, your days at Triple M, the grill team together.
Yes, we have.
I've got a lot planned for you two, actually.
Oh, for us. Okay.
Yeah. Touching on a lot of the old little funny things you two used to do together.
On just talking about great mates, one of your old teammates, and he's a friend of yours, Joshy Schuster's, and during a bit of a difficult time, he was allowed to negotiate with other clubs. Firstly, as a young man, I like Shuey. I really like him. He says a lot. Like, he's always up for a chat. What's he like though? I mean, I only chat to him in short spurts.
I like Shuey. I think he cops a bad rap sometimes because he probably doesn't like to show. He doesn't really show his true self. Like, he's a bit of a shy dude, so he doesn't really put himself out. He doesn't market himself as how he really is. So, and I mean, he's probably, with how talented he is and how talented everyone knows he is, he hasn't performed, and he's the first person to put his hand out. He hasn't performed to his potential across the last 12 months. So, so I think that kind of has a lot to do with why everyone knocks him in the media. He's got
a lot to his game, Coop. And when you've got a lot to your game, that can be tricky, and it can be it can be problematic at times. So when you see people that have got a lot of weapons in the arsenal and how they play and everything like that, when they're going good, they're a superstar.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, when aspects of that, of all your talent and all the things you've got in your game start to fall apart, then things can go bad. If I was to give Shuey any advice, I would say just have a look at the last month of Matt Burton. Now, Matt Burton, as we know, moving into the sixth jersey, moving into the halves, was really weighed down by what he believed his responsibilities were. Pushing the side around the park, calling shapes, which is not really his go. What he did to really recapture forward, Coop, he scaled everything back. Right? He scaled everything back. He had a very simple focus. Run the football or feed Viliame kick out early. That's it. Now, what you started to see in the last 2 weeks is him getting better and better. Once he mastered that part of his game, the simple part of his game, it's allowed him then to move forward. And you see he's starting to call sequences. He's starting to call shapes. He's starting to execute shapes. So that would be my advice to Shuey. My advice to Shuey would be scale it back. Right? Simplify your game. Just for a little while, put the no-look passes just away. Put them in the kit bag. Right? And just reignite your game on the back of simplicity.
Yeah. What team would you like to see him go to?
It's funny, Coop, like the obvious, like there's clubs, I'd love to see how he go at one of the top clubs. Like, I'd love to see how, Manly's a top club, but, a team that's sort of have got their style really sort of nailed down and established. Where basically where he would be just the icing on the cake. If that makes sense.
Well, Manly's not like Manly. They are a top club. They've got such a good roster, but they play. I think they play to a very free flowing style. Like they don't really know exactly their style. They've got so many good individuals, and they just play based on how they get out there and feel, because they've all got really good instincts for the game.
Like you were saying, like you've said even before, DC and Tom Travojevic are reactive players.
Yeah. So
for Shuey, I'd actually like to see him go to a club that's got a very strong system. I was going to say structured system. Basically a team that has got a system of play that they know inside out. And they say to Shuey, here, this is all we need from you.
Yeah.
Right? We want you here. We want you. These are the things that you can make us a better football team with. I think that'd be good. I mean,
you look at the obvious two, in my eyes, that have a set system that they never waver away from that, and it's like, either you guys come and beat us or we're going to beat you without. They don't really change to different teams. Melbourne and Penrith.
Of course.
I mean, I'd like Penrith would be an interesting one as well. Like,
yeah.
I don't know what position's his best position, like whether it's back row or 5'8". But
it'd be an interesting experiment. Broncos too.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Him playing on the edge as a ball playing back rower and having Reece Walsh floating around on those little sweep sequences. I'd be interested to see how that would go.
Yeah.
But once again, and here I am just handing advice out left, right, and centre. But again, my advice to Shuey would be, is that there'll be a club out there that'll offer him, I reckon, $550.
Yeah.
That'll come out and say, "Here, I'll tell you this." My advice to him will be, even if it's half of that, righto, go to a club, go to a strong club that's got a strong system, righto, where there's not going to be an over-reliance on you. That'd be my advice.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, Gus must be getting close, Coops.
Yeah, let's get him in here.
Gussie boy. I'm a little nervous what you got planned for us. Okay,
it's exciting.
Let's go.
Yeah. Welcome to Gus Worland.
Coops.
Give us one, I think. Good to see you, Gussie.
Matty,
really good to
Gus,
see you.
Legend. Good to see you.
But obviously you guys have a rich history together at Triple M on the grill team.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your time working with Matthew.
Well, I remember I was told that I was going to be doing this breakfast radio. I'd never done radio before, so all of a sudden Triple M Brisbane in Brekkie, Sydney. And they said, we're getting Matty Johns. And I went, oh, thank God for that. There's going to be at least an adult in the room that can run all this thing.
Before you got to know me.
Yeah, that's right. After that, Matty didn't come on it for another year. So I had MG and Stewie McGill, who was the loosest unit you've ever come across. So it was literally...
We sort of gather that now, Gus.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We knew it before everyone else knew it. Anyway, so the first year was like literally, what is this all about? Getting up at 3:30 in the morning and trying to do a Brekkie radio show, not really quite knowing what we're doing. But to be honest with you, and not just saying because your dad's here, once we knew Matty was coming in the second year, Stuart got given the flick and your dad was coming, then we knew that at least we had something to sort of build the show around. And from then on, we had 8 years together. And I remember your dad said to me, he said, it's like meeting each other in 5th grade and then finishing HSC. That's as long as we were together, waking up at that time of the morning. And, the grill team for me was... I was 38 years old. I was a salesman. By the time I was 40, I was on Brekkie Radio. So it was pretty cool for me.
It was. I went past someone this morning, Gus. I must be a few times a week. I'll get people saying, "Mate, the grill team, Mr. Grill team." Yeah. Blake did it this morning. Went past and he went, "Oh, mate, used to enjoy you on that show." And I thought, "Geez, I've been sacked from a few and quit a few." I said, "Which one?" He said, "Grill team." Yeah. But some of the things, like some of the good times we had, whenever we travelled, Coop, we just had the best time. I mean, New York was something special.
It was. Doing a breakfast radio show 2 in the afternoon. And, of course, these blokes had nothing to do except be ready for 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And even that was a bit of
that was hard, mate.
I was still doing a show for A&E Channel, The Marathon Man. So I was training and trying to do that show. But these guys were just on it. And I remember Matty one day, we went to I think I asked him, I said, Hugh Jackman's doing a play. Would you like to come? And Matty goes, nah.
just like I was in a different mood. I was in a different mode than going and sit and watch the play. MG shouldn't have gone.
MG went. He was completely off his tits. There was a moment, like you just don't go to the loo unless there's a break in the theatre, especially in small theatres in New York. He must have got up to the loo 3 times. There was no singing at this one. It was just an acting thing. It was Jacko and one other actor. So every time it was like, excuse me, as he went across everyone's set of legs.
And he's 6'7". Like it's
three times. And then I said at the end, don't bring anyone back. We're just going to have a nice quiet drink with Jacko. He brought 6 people from the show back to Jacko's place. No one knew who they were.
What about the one that someone... There was a scene where someone came out, we came out the top off, part of the thing. And I think Jacko said to you that all he heard, like while he was up on stage, was MG go, whoa!
It was like, whoa! It was complete silence. It was a really beautiful moment. Jacko sort of takes down the strap off the shoulder sort of thing, that sort of number. And just from the back of the theatre, whoa!
What about some of the ones with MG? They got you over the years. What about at Warwick Farm Races? It was the Grill Team Handicap.
Yeah.
And you got up to present the SAT.
Well, we were meant to, it was live on Channel 9. We were meant to present the owner with the trophy or something like that. And we had a few drinks. And I said, what's the bloke's name again? And he goes, Lobster, Mr. Lobster. I went, Lobster? That doesn't seem right. But he goes, no. And MG had a way of just making you feel like he was telling you the truth. And I go, righto. So I go up and I say, thanks very much for being here. The Grill Team Handicap, blah, blah, blah. I want to just congratulate all the horses that were involved, but especially the owner, Mr. Lobster. Of that. His actually name was Crab, C-R-A-B-B. And I remember the bloke looking, it was his big moment, his first winner, and he's looking at me going, you've stuffed my name up. And I look around and MG's killing himself laughing. And that happened a lot with MG. He used to scare me every morning in the car park with some sort of like a wrestler's mask or like a Mexican mask on.
The scream mask?
Oh, the scream mask as well. He's a big man. He'd just pop round a pillar and just go, oh!
He's a strange cat. Remember that game he used to play with his kids when he turned all the lights off?
Oh, yeah, Sunday Night Man.
Sunday Night Man. And he'd be in his undies. And they'd have to get from one side of the house to the other without coming across Sunday Night Man.
And he was drunk too.
He'd get blind. He said once, because what he used to do, lay on the floor and wait till someone went past him and grab him the leg. He said he was so paralytic one night he laid on the floor and fell asleep. The game went for 3 hours. What about someone? We had a lady on the very serious chat. She came on, very serious, might have been a politician. And her name was Jill Batt, right? Anyway, we said, who's going to bring this in? Gus, I'll bring it in. Sweet. And he goes, what? And, he goes, what's the name, MG? Wrong person to ask. And he goes, Gilbat. And Gus goes, and we're good enough to join us for a little bit of time. Please welcome Gilbat. Right? She went, chill.
It rattled me big time because we very rarely had anything sensible on our shirt, so on our show. So when I was given the opportunity to bring something in, I took it seriously. But MG was not the man to help you in those situations. But in saying that, Coops, we went to Turkey together. Your dad didn't come on that trip. Him and Paige stayed in Sydney, but we went to Gallipoli. We had a week in Istanbul, and that was like a fantastic
all through
time.
Triple A, like all for the Grill Team.
Yeah, we took the Grill Team. Well, we did the show at midnight till 3 a.m. and your dad and Paige were back here in Sydney. That was fun. That was a really great trip. We did New York. We did Hawaii as well. Like, we went all the way around the world with that show.
What about some of the ones remember Steve Carell, right? Remember we did Steve Carell, and I pretended that I was a super fan, that I'd won
the prize to be in the interview.
So there's Gus and there's MG, and I'm Matty in the middle. And they went, "Oh, this is Matty, and he's like your biggest fan." And he's such a nice guy. Stu Carell
so lovely.
He goes, "Hey, Matty, how are you?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm good, thanks." So I just sat with the interview. But then whenever he said something, I'd go,
and he was like, he knew something was up, but he was too polite to say anything.
You don't have the balls to actually say, "Hey guys, this is a stitch up."
The first one, he went, "Oh, I did the hair," and he went, we just the no BS luncheons.
Well, they were the best and the worst of what we were about.
Let's talk about some of the other stuff now. Coop, you've done a bit of searching. And you dug up some stuff.
I've dug through the archives. I've got a bit of audio. I've got 5 pieces, or 6 pieces. So this
good
is
preparation,
some.
Coops.
Good prep. I mean, Gussie,
you're a professional.
We rolled out the red carpet for you. Look at the drapes. Look, the first one here is, talk us through this one, Matthew. You guys clipped up one of Gus's interviews he did on like a morning show, and you inserted
Yeah.
beep?
We didn't insert words, but in certain words, we just beep it. And it was an example of how you can take something so innocent in a conversation and make it sound disgusting and sinister. Let's have a listen.
That moment of ecstasy when I Jacko was brilliant, and then my wife and kids came in. Then I asked my wife again if she would me after 20 years, and all of a sudden you put it off to next month.
You're a bad bloke, Matty.
It's a subtle prank, but it's very good.
Oh,
Now, you played yesterday, one of my favourites, Gus, where they'd hook you in because you do anything for the show. And they'd say, listen, we want you to read an ad or a live read.
yeah.
And they were fake ones. The first one is one you did for recycling.
Oh, no.
Let's have a listen.
Recycling is the one way we can all work together to save our environment. There are hundreds of household items you can recycle that you may not have even thought of, like light bulbs, microwaves, wallpaper, even old pets.
That is brilliant.
Oh, was there ever a point when you're reading that?
you know
and
what?
You go, or does it get to the point where you go, you know what? I'm just gonna. It might be a stitch up for the sake of the show. I'm just gonna read it.
Coops, I never even thought about it as a stitch up, even after they stitched me up for years doing it, because they got me to do it at 5 a.m. So you just roll in there, the audio, just knock it out. And I thought I was just doing whatever for the show. I know, I'm not the sharpest tool.
They
in the
take
shed.
advantage of you.
What
They
about,
did.
because Gus he loves his music, but it's more pop
Yeah.
type music. He's not a rock man.
No.
So they got him and they said, listen, we want you to advertise this big rock festival that's taking place. But when Gus read out all the artists, they're actually, all of them, long time or just recently dead. Let's have a listen.
And we're giving you the chance to rock out of the ultimate music festival in the United States of America. We'll fly you and 3 mates to the spiritual home of rock, Detroit, Illinois, with 5-star accommodation at the Dirty Sanchez Ranch. Then you'll spend 3 days in rock and roll heaven at the Eternal Grunge Music Festival. Have a listen to this lineup: John Bonham from Led Zeppelin, Keith Moon from The Who, Frank Zappa, Jeff Buckley, Joey Ramone, B.B. King, Lou Reed, Tom Petty, Chris Cornell, and the original Man in Black, Johnny Cash. Enter now to win at triplem.com.au for this once-in-a-lifetime experience. John, is it John Bonham?
Now, one of the ones, like one of your greatest heroes, the late, great Shane Warne. And
Yeah.
by the way, I didn't get to talk to you about that. What a loss. It must have hit you like a ton of bricks.
It absolutely did. And of course, it was Rodney Marsh, same day, right? So when Vic said to me, Warney's dead, I thought she had got her cricketers mixed up. But I realised then both of them were dead. The last time I spent a little bit of time with Warney was he was at the cricket and I was doing the cricket for Triple M. And he actually said to me that he was cutting down his group of mates and stuff. He had worked out that it was a smaller group, more solid, where he could be more honest and vulnerable. But that's what he wanted to do. And he had learnt that from sort of all the Gotcha for Life stuff. So that made me feel awesome. And he actually showed me texts that he had with certain mates that were just super deep. And then about a week or so later, he wasn't with us.
Incredible.
And, you know, unbelievable bloke, unbelievably talented. But I never, ever saw him other than the way that you see Warning. You know what I mean?
Well, you worked with him on Triple M.
Yeah.
But there was such excitement around when it was announced that Forney was coming to Triple M. Now, the week before it was announced, we had him in. He was doing, for whatever reason, he was an ambassador for wind turbines. Remember that?
That's right.
It was
That
so
was
weird.
weird.
And we said, and we just kept, no matter where the conversation went, we kept bringing it back to wind turbines. And he was like, after about 10 minutes, he goes, fellas, just can we just give the wind turbines thing just a bit of a rest? Anyway, said to Gus, oh, mate, you blokes were really big pains in the ass. Gus was very innocent in the whole interview. It was more me and MG. So we got the boss at Triple M, Fitzy, to ring Gus and told Gus that basically Warney was filthy on Gus. Let's have a listen.
Hey, Fitzy.
Hey, Gussie, how are you, mate?
I'm good. How are you?
Mate, I'm okay. I've had a phone call from Shane Warne's manager, put it that way.
Oh, yes.
Because for some reason he's pissed off, and he's pissed off with Triple M, and he's blaming you for it.
Blaming me?
Yeah.
Well, the conversation that I had with Warney was that he had no problem with me. He had a problem with the line of questioning through the Grill Team show.
Right.
He thought that, I'm trying to get the exact word, but sort of was a bit of a vindictive line of questioning when it came round to the wind turbine.
You know I'm negotiating with him at the moment for the cricket.
I didn't know that, no.
Well, now he doesn't want to be part of the cricket because you're in the box. So I've got a choice. I can either have Shane Warne on the team or I can have you on the team.
Right. Well, you haven't got a decision to make then, have you, really?
Would you suggest I drop you, would you?
Well, if it comes to Shane Warne or Gus Worland, of course.
Oh, my God.
I mean, I'd be shattered, mate, because I loved it so much. It was my dream to do it, the Ashes and everything. But in terms of Triple M's cricket coverage, to have Shane Warne and the rest of the guys we had against Pakistan, well, we would be the best out there. So if you can get Slats back as well, then we would beat everyone out there. And you won't do that with me. I mean, Warnie's the best there is. So he's and such a big name. But I'd be shattered. But if that's what you have to do.
Well, you won't be a part of it, mate. There is an alternative.
Yeah.
There is another spin bowler we could put in the box for the Ashes. How do you feel about working with Stuart McGinn?
Oh, dear.
When you listen to it back, it's actually a very sick joke.
Only he would. You know,
Honestly, that took me back. What is it when you get little shivers? And
Oh, yeah. What
you
bit
get
of
bad memories.
PTSD.
Yeah,
or
that.
something.
Yeah.
well, we have a Lexus.
Whose idea was that?
I
mate?
don't know.
That must have been you.
No, I don't think so. Mate, you know the was Matty O'Reilly there then?
Father might have been Father.
He was the secret assassin. Yeah, our executive producer. He came up with all these
With all the
little-
pranks.
Now we've got a Lexus one. I reckon we skip over that.
Yep.
Righto. Let's go. We did this thing
Oh, that's
right
when I
on
said
Monday
I'm part of
morning.
Alexa's family.
Yes, that's
that was
right. I
embarrassing.
can't put you through that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to put you through that because you're sweating. On a Monday, these are brilliant. We did the thing called home base. Now, what it was, Gus would do a series of jokes, and we did it like a baseball game. So if it was a good joke, he went to first base. A cracking joke, he did two bases. Basically, he was trying to get around to home base. 4 or 5 good jokes in a row. Let's have
Very
a
good. And what I've done here is I've just picked the best one.
Okay.
I've picked my favourite of all of yours because it's a
thanks,
very
mate.
There was one which we absolutely hosed ourselves, but even that short amount of time since the grill team ended, we probably can't fly.
it's a little politically incorrect, but this is one of the best.
Our local flasher was thinking of retiring, but he's going to stick it out for another year. Yeah, go to first base. You don't like that sort of jokes.
That is.
I know.
Well, for you, that's a little close to the boat.
Yeah, the local flasher. Stop speaking in the third person.
Oh, Pagey.
Pagey was a genius.
Now, guys, so let's move on to the grill tip. Mate, Jacko, everyone knows that you and Jacko grew up together. Like your family, you're like brothers. Did Jacko live with you guys as a young fella?
Yeah, so basically, Mr. Jackman back in the day was a businessman, and if you went overseas, you'd go for 3 or 4 months at a time. There wasn't this back and forth like we tend to do these days. So Mr. Jacko would turn up with Jacko and give us a box of like tin tomatoes and bits and bobs, like stuff that couldn't sort of perish easily, and go, there you go. So Jacko stayed with us from the age of 9 for 3 or 4 months a year up until we finished school. And that's why we're not just mates, we actually are brothers.
Is that where you guys met? Did you guys meet in school?
So we met at Pymble Public School as 5 years old, and then we left Pymble Public, went 5th grade, 6th grade at Knox, then did all the way through together. Then we did our gap year in England together, which is sort of the year 13. Then he went to uni, and we 18th birthdays, we did each other's speeches. 21st birthdays, did each other's speeches. Best man at each other's wedding. Godfather to each other's first child. So, I mean, his rise, of course, is incredible. But it's a nice relationship, and one that we're continue still to have.
Was it bizarre, Gus, to see your brother go from being just a mate, not just every day, to have this rise and rise and rise to being this global megastar?
Yeah.
How bizarre was that?
It's absolutely bizarre, but as I still call him Jacko. I still don't quite get it. I understand how talented he is. I've seen him obviously up on stage, and in certain movies I think he's incredible. But I suppose for me, when I've gone overseas with him, for our 40th birthdays, we went to Tokyo. And I remember we just getting this little sushi bar, and we sat there, and obviously someone's clocked him. But by the time we finished our sushi, we would have had 1,500 people. and they were all so beautiful, the Japanese, they actually got in a line, and Jacko had a photo with absolutely every single one of them. And all the bloke at the chef at the restaurant said was, do you mind going out and at least just saying hello, because everyone's out there, they've clocked you. And Jacko goes, yeah, no worries. Anyway, an hour and a half later, he's still taking a photo with every single one. Nothing has changed. Like if you met him now, he would be talking to you about the grand final '97. He'd be talking to you about your brother being an immortal. He'd be asking about what's your life now and how much fun you're having changing from a professional sport. He's just interested in people, and that's the type of person he is. And nothing's ever going to change that, no matter how big he is.
Was there a moment for you that like he went from that you remember thinking, wow, he's not like just how big he is now?
I think the first time that he was Wolverine, that first X-Men, that opportunity came to him. A few people turned that down before, and a few people got injured before the shooting of that, which gave him the opportunity. He was Curly on the West End, so singing in Oklahoma, "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning," that beautiful song from that musical. The bloke who was about to be the director of X-Men had his filming rained off in London that day, had gone back to the hotel and said, is there any tickets for matinees? Because, I'm not going to work the rest of the day. That bloke walked in, saw Jacko and went, that's my Wolverine. So if that hadn't rained that day, they wouldn't have even known who he was. He was not doing movies really at that stage. He was more of a theatre actor. So these little sliding door moments, and I suppose when I went to the opening, of X-Men and saw how much people loved him and stuff, and then it made $1 billion. You go, okay, well, the big fella's probably going to make it here.
Hard not to believe in fate, isn't it, sometimes?
Oh, I totally believe in fate.
Gus, what about as a kid? Was he, did you know he was going to be... Did he have this belief that he was going to be a mega star? Like, did you see it?
No, he was always going to be good Coops at whatever he decided to do, whether that was going to be a journo, which is what he was going to do initially, or whether he was going to be a lawyer or whatever it might be. His brother's now the youngest judge on the Supreme Court. They're a smart family. They're really switched on. He said to his dad, I want to do theatre. And his dad said, you got to get a proper degree. So he went and got a journalistic degree. And then he said to his dad, can you give me 1 year? I want to try acting. He went really well. Then he went to WAPA, which is Western Australian Performing Arts, which is now bigger than NIDA. And from that moment on, he just wanted to have this opportunity. And he's never been unemployed since.
Well, it could have been on NRL 360. Imagine that.
Easily.
Yeah.
He's probably got the skills for that as well. He's one of those annoying blokes, Coops, that if he spent half an hour on NRL 360, he'd be saying a brave see you, mate.
Yeah,
I'll take it from here.
Yeah.
What about some of the people you've met through Jacko? Tell us the story, the John Travolta on Swordfish.
Oh
story.
yeah, that was one of the greats. Well, the first time I met him, we had my Jack, who's now nearly 24, and Oscar, who's nearly 24, and Travolta was, we had the photo with the wives and all that sort of stuff, and then they went off and did this night shoot where there were car chases through Los Angeles and stuff. So I decided to have a little kip, which I did, and then the knock on the door came and said, "Oh, John wants to have a drink with you," and Hugh. Beautiful. So we go around to this huge, big caravan, couple of glasses of juice and a cigar cutter and a Dunhill lighter. So we're all sitting there, and I'm so excited, right? So I'm smoking the cigar like it's a ciggy, right? And Jacko's looking at me, getting me going wider and wider, getting more and more sick. And eventually I go, "Oh, excuse me," but I didn't get to the door, so I spewed up in Travolta's caravan. And of course, Jacko, like every Aussie bloke does, laughing at your mate before you help them, right? Yeah. That's how we rock. So he was laughing his head off, and Travolta gets up Jacko for laughing and not helping. And eventually I stumble home, and Jacko had to get the hose out and hose down Travolta's thing. The next time I saw Travolta, 6 months later, the opening of Swordfish, and he came over to me, he said, "You're going to keep it all together tonight?" I went, "Yep, thanks,
good.
JT." So he remembered that. And, those moments, like John Travolta for me, Grease and stuff, was like the greatest of all time. And he said to me, Jacko learned a lot from him, but he said, I know this guy's going to be something. He saw it.
Wow. Maybe tell me once, I laugh about this, it's probably every sports fan's worst nightmare. You guys are courtside New York Knicks or Lakers, and with the Skittles.
So the Knicks play on Christmas Day. It's a traditional game.
Yeah.
Madison Square Gardens. So it's not me, it's my mate Marcos, who's an absolute, we could tell a whole podcast on that clown, Queensland red-headed freak. Anyway, he's there and he's got they're nothing in smalls in England, so it was, in USA. 1 kilo pack of Skittles. Oh. And it's a waxy, you can't quite get your teeth to open it up, so he's trying his best and stuff. Anyway, courtside, so he goes, boom, and the whole pack opens and explodes, and these Skittles go everywhere, right? And the whistles are going, and players are falling over each other and whatever. So they had to stop the game for 3.5 minutes.
It's like marbles.
Literally,
that's what it is.
That's exactly what it was, and they had to stop the game and so forth. And of course, you stop a game in America without timeouts and stuff, it turns everything in. So in the end, Jacko had to get up and do a 3-minute chat at halftime as a bit of a sorry for stuffing up the game.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, you said about like the Jackman's been a really talented family, but your own. Like Steve, your brother, successful writer, filmmaker, gave Sam Worthington his first start.
Yeah, he did, and married Georgie Parker, the greatest thing he's ever done. Georgie obviously, won a couple of golden Logies and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I mean, Steve never fitted in at Knox. He wasn't a boaters and blazers bloke, so he went to America in year 10 and just said to Mum and Dad, can I just go and live with another family? They had these associations where people came from country to country. So he spent 2 years, and then he ended up coming back and doing a film and school course, and then he went back to LA and worked with Mel Gibson's company. He was there for a few years, and then he came back, and like Matty said, he's been busy ever since. So he was always going to be a fantastic writer, but he never saw an opportunity here. Yeah. But in the end, America opened up his eyes.
He made that movie Bootman, but the Dean, Novocastrian,
up
Dean
in Newcastle,
Perry, up in Newcastle. He and Sam Worthington. That was the start. Does he keep in touch with Sam?
I think. Well, Sam then played another movie not so long ago.
Paper Planes.
Paper Planes. That's right, where he played the father. So they've kept that contact. Of course, Sam's gone to another spot now.
Those actors of that. Joel Edgerton, all those guys, Ben Mendelsohn.
Oh, well, Ben in particular, now looked upon as one of the great actors, hasn't had that huge, big part yet, but everything he does, he's loved and looked after.
I loved the other day, I was listening to Mark Moran's big interview in America, and he's got Ben Mendelsohn on there, and he's talking about Melbourne. He's a Melbourneite, and he goes, okay, and Mark Moran goes, that game you play down there, that Aussie Rules? He goes, yeah, he goes, you're an Aussie Rules guy, huh? He goes, no, I don't. No, I'm a big rugby league fan. I follow the Melbourne Storm. And I just thought, I was chuffed.
Good on you, Ben.
Yeah.
Good on you, brother.
What about the house? Obviously, your brother, you, and Jacko for 4 months of the year when you're growing up.
Yeah.
What was it about the environment in that house that has just, created this cesspool of success?
Well, gay father, probably a good start. A gay father who was, even though I didn't know it at the time, but everyone else seemed to know it. Again, going back to you give me something to read or write, I'll do it. I just don't see any evil or badness in anything. So if my dad, I looked at him, I thought he was just normal, completely normal. And so he was creative, and we always were dancing and singing and that sort of thing. And my mum, Janelle, who, loves Maddie and would love the grill team still to be on. They just built a really lovely atmosphere where you could totally be yourself.
Yeah.
And when Dad eventually left, and I found out about Dad and him being gay and everything, once I'd had that discussion with him, I was cool with it as well. What I was upset about, Coops, is feeling like I hadn't been told the truth for years and everyone else seemed to know.
Yeah.
So why can't you tell me what's going on? Their reaction was, you're going along good, so we didn't want to muck you up. But as far as I'm concerned, it's always better to be honest. But that family, that home, it was the one place that everyone wanted to come. There was always a cake. There was always a game of cricket, a game of footy. We had a nice house with a pool, and Mum was just the perfect host.
Yeah.
Dad's a great guy.
Oh,
he's a real
champ.
flamboyant, funny guy. He's really good. Talking about that guy, so I thought it was a guy who has had a huge influence, like your second father, is one of our greatest, probably greatest tennis player of all time. One of, anyway.
Yeah.
Certainly the most charismatic, John Newcombe.
Yeah.
He was like, just for you, he's a father.
Just what I needed, Matty. Like, I was 14, chubby, always sort of, struggled with my weight. And Nuke told me this story about Jimmy Connors was number one in the world, and he was coming to Australia to knock off the Australian Open and knock off Nuke. And Nuke ran up and down Ryde Road for 4 months and got ready for it, ended up beating Connors in the final. Now, that story goes for 15 minutes, and Nuke is one of the great storytellers. So I'm sitting there and I'm going, right. So I lost 17 kilos in the same time that he had lost that to win the Australian Open. And from that moment on, it just sort of, I don't know, secured our relationship as sort of like a father and son. And I still talk to him most weeks, and I still ask him about all the big decisions I have to make. as you get older, I've found mentors, people that I can speak to. Your dad is one of them at times as well, where I can say, what do you reckon about that? Just give us your gut feeling on that. You get all this information, then you make whatever calls right, and Nuke's certainly one of those.
And your dad, we talked about your dad before, and that secret. It was Nuke who told you.
Yeah. So I was actually working at the New South Wales Open for Nuke. I think he was throwing me a bone because I was sort of hanging around and not doing a lot. And so I looked after the boxes at White City for the New South Wales Open. At the end of the week, it had all gone really well. And Nuke said, let's go out for a Chinese feed. I'll drink. You won't, but you can drive my Porsche home. Now, that to me was like, you beauty, right? So I'm driving around in my Honda Shuttle. I'm like, I got a chance to drive this red Porsche. So we go to this Chinese. We're sitting there. We get the dim sims and the spring rolls come out. Nuke goes to the loo, and I'm sitting there going, should I have one? No, I'll wait. Anyway, Nuke comes back from the loo, sits down without taking a sip of his beer or taking a bite of the entree, goes, you know your dad's gay, right? And I thought it was the start of a joke. I thought, three men walk into a bar or something like that. And I'm like, and I was sort of waiting for the punchline. He goes, no, I've been told by everyone that I'm the guy to tell you this. Do you know? And I'm like, what are you talking about, Nuke? I actually burst into tears. We didn't even have the entree. I walked out. Nuke drove me home. I went to Mum, knocked on the door. Mum opened up the door at home and I said, Mum, is Dad gay? And that Mum's face was like, who told you? I said, Nuke did. She goes, wait here. She goes down, has words with Nuke going, that was not your role to be able to do that. Nuke fires back and goes, well, someone had to tell him. Anyway, the next morning, Nuke comes up, says to me, I've got a ticket. I know your dad's in America. You need to go and you need to see him face to face. You need to have that conversation. So Nuke paid for all that, and I went across and I saw Dad. And when I saw him, Coops, I couldn't say anything. So I spent 3 days just saying that I was on holiday, and then eventually my brother phoned up and said, "Well, how did Gus take it?" And he goes, "Take what?" He goes, "Oh, he's over there to say that you're gay. You've heard that you're gay." And he's like, "Oh, he hasn't had the guts to say it yet." So Dad waited another day, and eventually
So even your brother knew?
My brother was 14 doing year 10 work experience, and my dad fired someone at the company, and this bloke walked past my brother and said, "Your of a father just fired me." Like, we're talking about 1982 here, where those words were, I don't know. It was still illegal to be homosexual in 1986 in New South Wales. It's a very different world to the world you're living in now. So my brother, water off a duck's back to him. He's just that sort of personality. So he just went to Dad and said, "What happened?" And Dad goes, "Yeah." And Steve went, "Okay." That was literally the whole discussion. Really cool moment for me 2 years ago, where my dad was at the Mardi Gras with my kids. That was pretty cool. They're all dressed up in the fluoro and stuff. And Dad went, "Cuba come a long way from those first ones when it was all still a bit dodgy." Oh. Now it's obviously, one of the great celebrations of the world. Yeah. And for him to do that with his grandkids was awesome. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Gus, mate, your TV career, we've spoken about radio. You've made a real go of TV. We'll get to the charity in a second, how that spawned into the charity. But the Aussie Goes series.
Yeah.
Aussie Goes Barmy, Aussie Goes Bolly, Aussie Goes Calypso.
Yeah.
Aussie Goes Bolly. Tell me, filming a show about cricket in India. Yeah. What was that experience
There's
like?
nothing quite like it. It was absolutely brilliant. We had 9 weeks there. It was a 7-match one-day series. And Barmy had done really well, so it gave us a lot of confidence. We got more of a budget, and Matty Weiser, was my EP at Fox, and he basically had these wonderful ideas where I would just go and investigate what cricket meant to India. And I'd live with princes, I'd live with paupers, and I would just have this experience, and then would go to the games and see what happened. Well, it was the greatest 9 weeks of my life, I would say, certainly professionally. Great crew, every day something different. No one got really sick. Everyone just had a fantastic time. And, I remember the only sad bit was probably the monkey gate around,
Andrew
Simon.
Andrew Simons.
Another legend that went. And I remember, Matty, they were all sort of going monkey chants, and they all had the zinc around the mouth. And I was in that crowd. I said to my little mate, Matty, who used to film it, I said, "We've got to get out of here, mate. This is blowing up." So we got down onto the ground, then they'll start giving it to Simons, who was on the boundary at mid-wicket. And I was just shouting back at them, and the fence was leaning over. And we got to get out of here.
I remember things got really heavy.
And Andrew Simons spoke to me after that match. He said, "Gus, I'll never forget that you stuck up for me that day, because I was the only Aussie in the crowd, and I was just like, I just couldn't believe that the Indians were doing this. It was one bloke, and then, of course, they got caught up in it. But, yeah, Bolly was great. And then Calypso, we spent 9 weeks basically high in in the West Indies. I mean, we had days where the focus of the camera was off, but we thought it was absolutely perfect. We were off. We were slightly, like I got into a crowd in one day. This spliff this bloke must have had was like, it was like the Sunday paper, and they'd rolled it all up together, and it was just drifting through the stand, and the singing and the dancing and the rum, and $100 US gets you in the party stand. You can have free pour all day in the sun. So you
wouldn't see the lunch session,
Woo!
basically.
How much access across those 3 series did you have to players? Like, did they give you sort of full access, and the relationships you formed with the players?
I reckon the first one, Coops, we got the first few weeks nothing, and then slowly but surely a little bit more. By the time we'd got to Bolly, then Calypso, all the players had watched the show, they enjoyed the show. And another trick, and this could be a good example for you moving forward with your media career, the trust that the players had in us, that the cameras were down, we were never going to report anything outside of what we wanted to do as a show. So we got invited to things, and we just had a fantastic time. Then we forgot about it in terms of the show. That's that trust that came with the team, and now they're still great mates now.
What a mistake that is with people. When people get there and they look for the headline, and it gives them the sugar hit, and lasts for about a week or two, and suddenly nothing.
And you're dead to that person for the trust issue.
Tell me about Gravy, the legend in the Caribbean.
You remind me of Gravy at times. Paige, you certainly remind me of Gravy.
Yeah.
So Gravy, like there was a red stripe in his hand, always.
Red Stripe beer, Coops. Yeah.
Just a beautiful West Indian, cool, brown bottled beer. And Gravy would have this in his hand.
So he's a Rasta.
Rasta, and started off singing and dancing and climbing all over the grandstands. Was very, very famous amongst all the West Indies teams through the 80s and 90s. And we found him and said, look, would you like to come on this trip with Gus? So he goes, I want to meet Gus first. We had an hour and a half together, and he just went, I'm in. And he made the trip for us because he opened up so many doors. He was loved, he was trusted, and all he really wanted, I think it was something like $500 US a week and all the beer that he could drink. And so we just made sure that was it. And I kept in contact with Gravy up until, only a couple of months ago, where his number's now changed. I'm trying to find it. But he'd just pick up the phone and we'd just chat about this time we'd had together. Like, he was a legend.
I love the episode. They're out on the boat and they run out of Red Stripe beer, right? And you're trying
disaster.
And you're trying to tell Gravy, mate, you're about 500 metres out, and you're trying to tell Gravy, it's okay. We'll be we'll be docking in an hour. It's all fine. Gravy dove off the boat and swam to shore.
He did. He can't. It's literally like, I don't know. It's like an appendage. He just has to have it. That's just the way
it's part of his body.
It's part of his body.
Was there a favourite of the three? Was there one that stands out above the? If you could do one more again, which would it be?
I've got some ideas moving forward. I think we should got to go back and do the Ashes in England, and I think it'd be great to do South Africa now that South Africa's opened up. But if I had to do one of those again, it'd have to be India. India is
just a quick one on Calypso.
Yeah,
I think you're in Antigua, and Gus is in the pool, and all of a sudden you think you're having a heart attack.
Yeah. Well, that's a funny story now. I thought I was having a heart attack. Got the ambulance, takes me to the private hospital, which is actually built by Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, who had bought a house there and realised with all their kids that there wasn't a decent medical centre close. So they built a hospital basically for their own family and allowed all the villagers to live there. Well, the funny story is Matty Weiss, who was the EP and is now one of the big bosses at Fox Sports, he jumped in trying to go behind me to film me in the ambulance. Well, the thing was, there was this ambulance pulled over at this chicken shop, and these blokes got out and started ordering chicken, right? So Matty's gone, well, how casual are these bloody ambulance blokes? I got a bloke think I'm having a heart attack in the back. Anyway, it worked out that it was the wrong ambulance. He had 2 ambulances came and he kept his eye on the wrong one. These blokes were having their day off. So eventually the ambulance with me and it was actually going to the hospital. But in the end, it was just a mild
heartburn.
Heartburn
For the goat curry.
Needed some quick, what are they, quickies or whatever they're called?
Yeah,
It was a goat curry and nuts, and that combination is not good moving forward.
Oh, man. Oh, so good.
Well, you had any more on this before I move on to Gotcha for Life?
You go for it, Coops.
You Gotcha for Life stuff. How long ago did you start that? Because that's probably...
That's the legacy.
Yeah, that's the legacy you've got now, and that's something that's probably you're going to continue for the rest of your life. How did that come about?
Yeah, thanks, Coops. Well, I was actually on radio with your dad and MG one morning, and we used to get there about 5 o'clock and would sit there with this empty canvas trying to work out what we're going to do at 6 o'clock for 3 hours. And I remember it really well. I just said to Matty and MG, could I have a bit of a moment today where you don't take the piss, where you're not taking fun out of me and you actually just listen, because this is an important topic. I've never discussed it before, and I've had a mate of mine took his own life. It was on the day that his 3rd and final child finished their HSC. Should have been a beautiful moment, and it's completely smashed our family. And the boys go, yep, let's go for it. And I reckon we'd built up a really good trust with our audience to have this conversation. So 8 o'clock, switched on the mic, and I spoke about my friend, and I wondered why a bloke who seemed to have everything would end up taking his own life. Well, that was nearly 8 years ago now. We've raised $17 million. We've given that to people that work in suicide prevention. We still lose 7 blokes a day, 2 women a day, 9 Aussies who woke up this morning won't wake up tomorrow morning. We need to get to the bottom of this, and we need to start teaching people how to ask for help.
Was it tough for you 8 years ago to talk about that on, such a big platform? Because obviously mental health discussions now are everywhere. It's very prevalent now. It still can get a lot better, but back then, it was not talked, especially in the male demographic, it was not talked about at all.
No discussion whatsoever, which is why it was so important that we actually got there and did it. What happened that morning was we had 90 minutes of phone calls. We didn't play a traffic report, a song, a news break for 90 minutes. I drove home. Your dad and I used to talk quite a bit on the way home from shows on, bits that we liked, bits that we could be better on and so forth. And I remember talking to Matty about how important that was. And then talking to MG and my wife later that day, I said there was 90 minutes of just our audience wanting to talk about stuff that they'd buried in their guts. Imagine what the rest of the world are doing. Imagine if we could give people the confidence to talk about the stuff that they're burying. Maybe we can get to the bottom of this. So Gotcha for Life has always been that positive. It's all about suicide prevention. We talk about mental fitness, not mental health, because mental health's got a bad rap. So that's what we're all about. And we're in more schools now. We're in more sporting clubs. 150,000 kids last year we gave our programs to. And we've just started a primary school one, because we have worked out that primary school is where we should be first talking to kids. It's a little bit too late in year 9, 10 and 11. A lot of it's sort of ingrained in you. Not that we can't change, but let's get to them as soon as possible.
What is Gus, what have you learned as far as primary schooling? I mean, what are the things that form in primary schools that we've got to get to? What is
boys, shutting down emotions.
Gotcha.
Literally, you can go and run and be playing and that sort of stuff, and you can fall, and within the next 5 seconds, a couple of people can say, "Don't cry. What are you, a bloody girl?" Blah blah blah. And that moment, our emotions switched off. And that might be because you've got an older brother who's told you that. These kids just don't know. So we need to build mentally fit schools where it's okay to be emotional. It doesn't mean we burst into tears every 5 minutes or have D&Ms all the time, but to be able to just, if something's good, you can laugh, and if something's bad, you can show that emotion as well. We're bloody human beings, and we're shutting down, as young men in particular, a lot of our emotions before we even get to the stage where we're out of primary school.
For you, Gus, it must have been overwhelming at times. I remember talking to your wife, Vix, and she was really concerned because you were the face of Gotcha for Life, and a lot of people looked at you as you started to become the go-to man. And she said to me, "Matty, I'm really concerned."
Yeah.
She said, people are reaching out to Gus who are on the brink saying, "Help me, help me, Gus. What should I do?"
Yeah.
That must have been so difficult.
Oh, we're getting 1,000 messages a day to my messenger social. So that's 30,000 a month. I'll give you a couple examples. One guy rang me and he had taken the tablets, and he rang me through Messenger. I don't know my social media, but if you're a friend of someone, and of course, Triple M put a lot of my friends on my Facebook because they're trying to build the show at the time. This bloke was able through Messenger to ring me. I picked the phone up and I was able to save him. I was able to get hold of his brother, got the fire, knocked on the door, we saved him, and still to this day, we've got this great relationship. I've also had others where people have come to me and said, I sent you a messenger note about my friend. He killed himself 2 weeks ago. That's on you. You know, and you get enough of those, good and bad, you start realising how this is a really, really emotional topic. I've had my struggles. I find it really hard to get rid of the emotion. If someone tells me something, I hold on to it. I try to come up with a solution. So, yeah, I've got my counsellor now and I work her overtime because the stuff that comes to me is like, how do you tell there was a beautiful bloke the other day, broke up with his wife because their son died. He took his own life in between the 2 English exams at HSC. He thought he had stuffed up his first exam, so he killed himself that night. Now, he ended up getting all these opportunities at university, but they didn't know he was dead. They just wrote on the back of his good sporting stuff at school. He was a good kid. He'd been a prefect. So they said, we know you didn't get your marks. However, we'd love you to look at, and it was Sydney Uni New South Wales, all the big unis. And there's the dad. He shows me 4 universities wanting their son, and they buried him a month or so before. There was a young boy at a boarding school that we'd all know of, 13 years of age, wrote a note saying, Mum and Dad, you don't have to worry about the school fees anymore. Oh. You know, because he'd heard an adult discussion through the holidays that, oh, God, it's going to be hard to come up with the dough this year. But they would have come up with it. But he ended up hanging himself first day back at school. So when you hear enough of these things, you realise that we're not ever going to be able to do enough, but you've just got to throw yourself into it. Now that we've started Gotcha, I feel like it's my responsibility to keep going.
Talking to parents who have gone through that, or partners, are they ever able to outlive the grief?
No, they just get to live with it. So the grief is different to different people. Some people get it over it quicker than others, but it never ever leaves you, especially when it's a parent and a child. A parent and a child is just an incredible grief that very few relationships ever the same again, and most of them don't survive either because there's just too much of a reminder of that. So yeah, it's when I think about that morning, Matty, on the grill team, and then the Man Up program, which you guys were a part of, it was like there could have been easier things to get you to lips around, but now that we're in it, we feel like we're making a difference. You know, the suicide rate hasn't gone up even through COVID, but gee, you know, I can't help it, Coops, if we build the right things at school for people to learn, hopefully they'll be able to put their hand up and ask for help.
What is your overall goal? Like, what's the goal?
0 suicides. It's got to be, right? You know, I know that's probably impossible, but it's got to be 0, right? Because if 1's too many, then what's less than 1?
Yeah.
So that's what we're going for. And to build mental fitness up so it's just like your physical fitness. Like, look at you guys. Your dad always been fit. You blokes, you and Jack have always been fit. Physical fitness comes easy to you because you practice it. What if we get your melon to go through some exercises to get mentally fit? You're more likely with Matty and Trisha's grandchildren, your children, to be better than they were with you. And that's it. Every generation slightly better than the other.
Yeah. Well, we've got we always finish with a menu of questions, but I really appreciate you
and some people, Gus, with the menu of questions,
it'll
be things like your favourite song. And it's funny with some people, you go, favourite song, and they go,
Never Going to Give You Up by Rick Astley.
I'm not really a big music person. I said, don't worry about Gussie.
He'll have them all ready.
I'll be right.
He'll unfurl the list.
But appreciate you talking. That was,
was awesome.
Yeah,
Gus.
that's a really good chat. And I just want to,
I'm sorry.
I don't just want to skim over it. That was really want to thank you for being honest with that, because I know there's a lot of people, especially in the rugby league world, especially through COVID, blokes that come up to me and they knew you and Dad worked together, who said, love Gussie Worland and the Gotcha for Life stuff. Really helped me through some tough times in the past. So,
and do you know what,
great.
Gus?
Thanks, mate.
Just on that, Gus, like I really feel like, there were tough things in our life that we had to deal with. There's the old, people say sticks and stones and all that sort of stuff. But this day and age, with young people and social media, I honestly don't know. I don't know how they.
I'd love to cancel social media. You know, there's so much good, but there's so much bad as well. And people are just now they feel bulletproof. They've got the mask over their faces, and they are just cruel. You know, and boys can be cruel to each other, but girls on girls cruelness is out of this world. You can't believe how people can talk to each other the way that they do. And I know a lot of your stuff, Coops, is around social media, and there's so much good that can be done. But bloody hell, I'd love to be able to police it better so people can't just be... The venom in some people's postings are just a disgrace.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you, Gus.
No worries. Thanks, Coops.
Okay. It feels weird going straight into a lighthearted...
No, it's good, mate. Life is balanced, right?
Go for it, Parkinson.
Okay.
Hey, that was one of the great chats we ever had. Michael Parkinson on the grill team.
Awesome.
We went from what was his name? The wrestler, Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
To Michael Parkinson and everyone in between. Like over 8 years, we had some crackers. But that was my favourite, Michael Parkinson, best interview of all time. He always ever had one question, and then he listened to the answer, and he knew if they were talking about something, he'd just continue that path because the person felt comfortable. And then they would go in all these other areas. I learnt that from him that morning.
Do you know what? One of the things I used to really like is that when people come in to the Grill Team studio, they'd be quite amazed and they'd go, God, this is a lot of fun. I remember once we had Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill.
Yeah.
They'd done 21 Jump Street. Now, they'd just done an interview with a guy down in Melbourne, and this guy was notorious for trying to be a shock jock and putting celebrities on the spot. Like, with Kyle, you work with Kyle, but Kyle's a shock jock. He'll say things like he gets a celebrity in, he doesn't try to humiliate the celebrity. He's stuffle, he'll say...
He says disgusting, crude things. And their shock horror is like, I can't believe he just said that live on radio.
With this guy, he would try to humiliate and put down celebrities. Anyway, Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill came up and they were rattled. Jonah Hill in particular. And they didn't want to really do the interview.
No, they were. If the same company, is this the same company they were saying?
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, it is, but we're a different station because he didn't want to do it.
He went. We've just had this guy down there. Some of the things he said to me, and we said, you'll be fine here. And we did the break, and they said, can we stay for another break? And can we stay for another?
Yeah, they stayed for half an hour in the end.
Yeah, they did.
Get out of. Please leave. We need to go home.
I know.
Well, in the end. We ran out of stuff after half an hour.
We certainly did.
All right, boys, like 21 Jump Street, fuck off. Not going to win a bloody Logie here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Gus. Favourite movie of all time?
Oh, favourite movie of all time, Kindergarten Cop. Now, I know most people say Shawshank Redemption, and that's right up there. But if you look at Kindergarten Cop, and please, any of your listeners here, it's got everything. It's got everything. It's got humour. It's got fun. It's got kids. It's got a shower scene.
Is that Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
It's got steroids.
Yeah. It's got it all. It was, it's not a tumor. It's that one when he's a kindergarten teacher, but he's not a kindergarten teacher. Yeah. That's the trick. He's actually an undercover agent.
You love undercover stuff because I remember on the grill team, the running joke was always that your favourite movie was Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Well, which one?
Two,
3 or 4. Also, I love that bloke because I loved his show. I was in love with his wife. Because the thing about me, I would always go for not the sexy girl, but the girl on TV that I feel as if I could actually get myself.
Yeah, achievable.
Where most blokes would go for Farrah Fawcett or a Charlie's Angel.
Heather Locklear.
Oh, yeah, but I would just no, I was going to that 6.5 out of 10. That's
Please don't name
sorry,
them.
Vix. Vix might be a 7.
What about your favourite song?
Oh. Well, I love Rick Astley, right? And I've got the Rick Astley dance down pat. So Never Gonna Give You Up is probably, and also Never Gonna Let You Down. that would be my number. But I do love Michael Bublé. And I do love the Foo Fighters. So I've got a bit of a mix. But if I had to have one song, when I finished on the grill team, King of the Mountain was the song they played for Midnight Oil, because all the songs that I chose, we don't play on Triple M. So they said, can you get something from Jimmy or Midnight Oil or something? So, yeah, King of the Mountain, Midnight Oil was a good one too.
Well, Rick Astley when he came in. Oh. Because I always looked at Rick Astley as this sort of preppy guy, with the hair and the suits, and never going to give. So when he came in, we were standing there in the studio and we're about to do the interview, and we come in and we said, hi, Rick. And I was about to, hello, gentlemen. Oh, what? Anyway, we go, Hi, Rick. Hey, it's nice to meet you. You're right. You're right. You're right, mate. You're right, lads. Oh, where are you from again? I'm from Waddington. Yeah.
Look, Billy. It's great. It's like a bloody dressing room in here, isn't it? Great.
I go to the game sometime. I go see Waddington Wolves at the wire.
Love the Wolves at the wire.
It was bizarre.
He loved his rugby league, Rick Ashley.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it like an unpopular opinion to say he only has one good
Oh,
song?
no. I like the slow one.
I don't want to. Sorry.
Okay, this interview is over.
It's over. Jonah Hill, Channing Tatum.
How dare you?
I just haven't heard any of the other hits.
Well, I'll send you a Spotify list, okay?
Send me some of his hits because I don't think I've heard any of his other songs.
Gussie, this is a bloke, right? This is a bloke. Remember once I'm driving him to a game when he's playing.
I remember you telling me this
and
story,
driving, and he goes, Dad, I'm just going to put on, you mind if I put on some of the pump-up songs?
Oh, yeah.
And first one to come was Dancing Queen.
Yeah, no, that's not true. ABBA, The Winner Takes It All.
Oh,
Very,
The winner takes it all.
very good song.
It's a great song, and it builds up nicely too.
Yeah, I used to just really fire. Obviously, didn't actually do anything for my on-field performance.
I was gonna say,
Hey.
it's ironic, winner takes it all.
Hey, mate, there's plenty of blokes that would love to play in the NRL.
Yeah,
So there
thank you,
go.
Gussie. Any athlete of all time, you get to slot into their body and be them for the rest of your life. Who would it be?
Oh, Don Bradman for me, like as a cricket fan, like
Yeah.
the greatest cricketer. So there's always debate around the GOAT of who's number two. But if you know cricket, Bradman's so far above everyone else. You know, like nearly 40 runs on average above anyone else. And the greatest, all the highest scores and so forth overall is Don Bradman. So for me, it would have to be the Don.
Do you have an opinion on who's number two?
It's always a good discussion here. Muhammad Ali, even though he lost some fights, always seems to be around number two, but very hard to beat Jordan. Like, what an absolute freak. And no real drama around him either, and did it for such a long period of time. So, yeah, I'd go with that.
Maradona as well. I love Maradona.
Goes all right. Pele went all right.
It's funny, those players, like, the thing I love about Maradona and Pele, they're one of 11 parts. Jordan was one of 5 parts. And to be able to influence, like particularly Maradona's World Cup that they won, he carried that side in 86 all the way through on his own back.
And when Messi won it last time, like, what a relief for him. Like,
Oh,
he can die a happy man now.
Yeah.
But you're right. But there's so many great, Brady in the NFL. I mean, like, there's a bloke at the moment that could beat him, Mahone. So how good is sport just to sit back and look forward to, no matter where it is in the world. I was watching Liverpool Man City this morning. I'll be watching the rugby league in Vegas the week before. Got the NBA on probably now. Yeah. Like, there's just great sport everywhere.
Even we had James Magnuson on a couple of weeks. Like, we had him earlier
before
on in the year.
Did you have him before he spoke about?
No, we had him. He was our second episode of this, and he spoke about the enhanced games. Like, who knows where sport's going to be in 12 months after the enhanced games.
Sort of a bit of an unpopular view, but I was for that enhanced games. I would like to see
just juiced up to the
how fast everyone can go or how far they can jump.
It's a very interesting concept, Gus, what it will do to the Olympics. Because as I said to Maggie, I said the 100-metre sprint, once someone might run 9.4, what does it do to the Olympics when someone who wins the gold medal runs 9.95? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I remember Kyle Sandland.
He just wants the cash though, Maggie, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
He just wants the mill.
Yeah, that's right. And I think he's cut in on the Netflix deal as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Well, I was poolside 2012 Olympics for Foxtel, so that was meant to be his Olympics London.
Yeah.
And I remember Eddie Maguire being in my ear going, "Is that Magnuson coming out of the water? You're like he finished second or something like that." And I'm going, Foxtel was like number 45 as they had to dart. By the time he got to me, he just went like that. And I said to Eddie, mate, Maggie's brushed me. He said, go down to that dressing room and pull that bloke out of his togs and get him to come and talk to Foxtel. He never came out. So that's my only experience with Maggie. Obviously, favourite, missed it by hundredths of a second, but I never got to chat to him.
He's a terrific fella. Oh. He's a very, very straight shooter.
He does a bit of stuff at SEN now.
Yes, he does. He's a very, very straight shooter.
Yeah, he's good.
Good fella?
Yeah, I like him. I like him. I think he's a terrific fella. And his partner Rose is probably one of the fucking craziest people I've ever met.
Oh, really?
Good crazy.
Yeah, I like good crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, mad as a cut snake.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your best ever holiday?
I would say I did my 40th to Japan and my 50th to America. And I did that with mates of mine, like solid mates. So, and Jacko Jacko opening doors and stuff for you everywhere you go was incredible. So America, we went to Los Angeles, San Francisco, Vegas, and we had 10 days and we went to every major sporting event we could. We went to every good restaurant we went to. Like, it was just insane. So in terms of that, but I loved, we'd always get good holidays on the grill team. And you as young kids and my young kids would go off to Fiji for 10 days and not have to wake up at 4 a.m. Like, very hard to go past that. You know, when your kids are running to put the towels on the things and then you're into the buffet breakfast and then they're off to and everyone's just having a good time and there's not a worry in the world and you're getting paid breakfast money. Happy days.
Not as good as afternoon money, Gus?
Well, it's a little better than afternoon money, yeah.
What about your worst? The place you would never want to go back to?
There's a couple of different ones that I could talk about, but I suppose the one that I sort of disliked the most was actually going down to Tassie when I was about 12 and we went on the boat. You know, that you put your car on the boat. Like,
the barge.
I remember my dad said to me, we're going overseas for the weekend. He picked us up at Knox and we flew to Melbourne and then we got rent a car, then went onto a boat and then went to Tasmania, got there like midnight. And then every time I woke up, Dad wasn't there. He was at the Rest Point Casino because it was the only casino in town. So we stayed at Rest Point, but Dad was in the casino the whole time. So this weekend away with Dad overseas, I was so looking forward to. It was a complete disaster. Never saw the place.
Rest Point was the first casino in Australia,
yeah,
wasn't it? Yeah,
that's right.
When
rotating above some hotel, I think.
We went down there. Trish and I we went to Rest. We've got to go to Rest Point.
So you know where I'm coming from?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been to Tassie since and it was all right, but that one, I think because I wanted to spend time with Dad, never saw him.
Yeah, it was a letdown.
It was, yeah.
What about the best and worst accent that you've ever heard?
Best accent is the Irish accent. I love the Irish accent.
Yeah.
I fell in love with a girl called Sophie.
I love this story.
8 days after I got married. So I got married on the 10th of December. 8 days later, I am without my wife on a rugby tour of the old Five Nations, where before Italy had joined, and I was there with my rugby club, but not playing. I was one of those non-playing members. You know, the bloke just to bring along a bit of a laugh, morale, and good guy to have on tour, sort of thing. And I drunk since 8 o'clock in the morning, the black stuff, and I was in this bar at 11 o'clock at night, and this girl, Sophie, was behind the bar, and she said, I wonder how many different nationalities we've got in the bar. And there was a Canadian, and I was an Aussie, and there was a Pom, and the Pom's just like, boo, sit down, no one wants to know. Get up on the bar, you drink the rest of the night for free, but you've got to sing the national anthem of your country. So I stood up there like a bit like an American, hand on the heart, and I pumped it out, and she loved it. And I got down on the wrong side of the bar, got on her side of the bar, so I ended up serving some people and stuff, and fell in love with her like in about 4 minutes. And I remember trying to get my wedding ring off. Like, it was brand new. It was so shiny. I was like, fuck, there's no way I can get away with it. I'm trying to get the bloody ring off. And it was so tight. And I couldn't get it off. And then she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I got married a little while ago, but I don't want to be married anymore. I want to marry you. And she was just like, everyone was laughing and stuff. And by then the Canadian bloke had got up. He started singing his national anthem and so forth. So I was always fallen in love with, I've never had a bad time with an Irish person.
Yeah, okay.
And the South African accent is by far the worst. Oh, my God. Diplomatic immunity.
Everybody.
Everyone says it.
They're all, I mean, there's a couple of nice South Africans that I know, but it's just a terrible, harsh.
Like, it's like I can never imagine. When Trish and I went to Cape Town, yes, there was a comedy club right near the hotel. Trish goes, you want to go? And I thought, I can't imagine any joke that you could do with the South African accent that would be funny.
Yeah, exactly. No, South African accent, terrible.
Okay, this is a scenario. Would you rather be dropped in the middle of the desert or dropped in the middle of the ocean?
Desert. I hate the ocean. I know we're close here and stuff, but sharkies just do it. I hate sharks. I haven't actually been in the water, except for the Collaroy pool, for over 6 years.
Oh, yeah, you really?
Yes. No, I can't get in.
You have a fear of water?
Yeah, I've got a fear of what's in the water. The sharkies.
Okay, so you're a pool man only.
I'm a pool man. Yeah. Oh, I don't mind a bit of sea, but as long as it's got to be a pool, not in real. Yeah, there in the ocean. I hate that.
Wow. Okay. Now this is we usually like to finish on this one. Okay. The time of Gus Worland is done.
It's all over.
It's all hypothetical.
Not actually.
He's not actually the Grim Reaper. It's hypothetical.
It's all going so well.
We're at your funeral.
Yeah.
And me and Dad are the pallbearers.
Oh, shit.
So we're walking you down. As we're walking you down the aisle to your inevitable, nothingness.
Yes.
What song would you like to be played?
Celebrate good times. Come on. Cool in the gang. Cool in the gang. I'd love to have if I die, I'd love to know it a few months out. You know, like you've got something so you can have a plan. And I want it, a bit like they say, the difference between an Irish wedding and an Irish funeral is one less guest. You know what I mean? Like, just have a party. Let's celebrate what I'm about. A whole lot of different people from all the different parts of the world just having a good time. So, I don't want it to be too morbid.
Yeah. Because that's the thing anyway. I say to people, when you die, you just know that half an hour after the casket hits the flames, everyone's going to be having a beer and having a laugh.
And going, I think we've probably been here long enough. Is that polite enough for me to nick off? Yeah.
Gus, that's awesome, man.
Hey, Matty.
I knew it was going to be great, but mate, that was 5 star.
Thanks,
Gus, thank you very much.
It's my pleasure.
Appreciate
mate.
your time.
Hey, best of luck with everything. You know, like it's a big thing. You know, you've been given an opportunity, but you got the talent. So just work hard. You'll be good, mate.
Appreciate that,
Well done,
Gus.
Coops.
Thank
And
you
listen
very
to your
much.
father.
Well,
Which one?
Not maybe. Listen to your father, but not all the time.
Yeah.
Kirk Gidley. Yeah.
Oh well, hey, listen to him, and that Badiris goes okay too.
He goes okay.
There's a couple of blokes up. I went up to Newcastle and did a Gotcha for Life thing. Adam O'Brien said, you know, when they were going through a bit of a tough time, they won the next 10, and every week I'd ring him and go, look, it's my pleasure, you know. But I knew that he was going through a lot of stuff himself. A lot of those staff were going through stuff. That session I had with them, an hour and a half, they were completely open, honest, and Badiris led that.
Yeah.
And I just, guys, got blokes like that around you.
Good man.
You're going to be successful, you know.
Do us a favour, because as we're recording this, they've just played the Raiders. Do you mind if we just head up the highway and have a yarn?
No problem.
I think they might need it.
Thanks, Gussie.
No, my pleasure, Coops.
Gus Worland, what a champion. Really good. Great mix of just a lot of laughs, but then obviously a lot of really good serious chat then with Gussie.
Great guy.
Yeah.
You know, it's and you know, it was funny. The part of the thing that made the grill team what it was everybody unintentionally played a role. Everyone, you know, had their own thing. There was no one to really step up. Everyone had a different personality and had a different role in the show. And Gus a lot of times was the heel, and he had no problem playing that and laughing at himself.
Yeah.
But you saw, the work he's done as far as Gotcha for Life has been unbelievable. I don't know how he does it at times. As I said before, he and his wife were at our place once, and she was really concerned about it. And I mean, you're talking about 30,000 requests or people reaching out to you a month.
Yeah, wow. And you look at, like, obviously he's a dude that's very emotional. Like, and I can imagine he's the kind of guy that anybody that messages him back then, he was, you know, he felt it on himself to have to reply and to try to help everyone. But
he's a people pleaser. He likes people.
Yeah.
So for someone to go up him and say, "Oh, mate, I sent you a message," you know, and you didn't get, that would cut him to the bone.
Yeah, yeah. Great insight into him and Hugh Jackman's relationship as well.
Geez, aren't they peas in a pod? I mean, you talk about, you know, Gus as a people person. The story about Hugh Jackman, 1,500 people at the front of a restaurant in Tokyo, and he goes there, gets a photo with everyone.
Yeah, and if I know we didn't play the Lexus prank, but for our listeners, if you like the pranks that we played at the start, go on YouTube and have a little listen, because geez, you've got him with some ripper pranks.
There was one we did. His favourite song there for a long time was Spandau Ballet's Gold, Gold, Gold. It's a little bit like, you know, Sweet Caroline these days is the song that...
Well, obviously, Chief remade that song into That's Gold.
That's Gold.
When That's Gold was a big thing.
But there was a stint there for a while that Gold was the Sweet Caroline. Everywhere you went, it was being played. And Gus loved Spandau Ballet and the lead singer, Tony Hadley. So we got an actor on pretending to be Tony Hadley, and Gus was interviewing him, and it just like Gus was like, "Oh, mate, would you mind if I sort of have a bit of a crack at it?" And Gus started going, "Gold, gold, always believe," and it was just the actor was just going total silence at the other end. Fair play to Gus, like Gus all of a sudden goes, I'll just say something. You're really quite rude and really disappointing. Started giving it to him. Fair play.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
There's a lot of good ones over the year. Listening to Gus and the stories made me really miss the grill team.
yeah, I could see that. I could see you getting very nostalgic, you two. You were just really feeding off each other. Because you had great chemistry on that show. All of you, Pagey, MG, Gus. You had such great chemistry on it.
It was great fun.
Well, great chat. I'll see you next week, Matthew.
No, you'll see me. We're living under the same roof. I'll see you in 5 minutes.
It was a metaphor. Thanks.